Welcome to Wealth Mavericks, the only podcast where we help doctors unlock the secrets to building generational wealth. And today, we're talking about how your decision-making process is likely messing everything up for you and what you can do about it.
That impacts other people. It impacts other people's businesses and their desire to work with you. Could be patience, whatever it might be. And so I would just encourage you, analyze the way that you make decisions currently and how can we develop a process to make decisions more efficiently. Saying no to anything that is suboptimal allowed. It frees you up. Make that no decision quicker in your life. That's probably, it's not the yeses, it's the no's. Get through those quickly. Like, you do not need to sit there. How can I speed up this process? Not live in indecision.
Today we're talking about decision making and the importance of having a process to making faster decisions, because when you sit in indecision on anything, you're wasting time and you are actually making a decision to not make a decision. And we run into this all the time, whether it's with doctors who are considering working with us and they know they need a tax plan and they're paying too much to the IRS, but they're just dragging their feet because they're just not sure. To our members who have big decisions to make in their practice every day, and yet they don't. And so they fall behind and they fall into anxiety. And so we want to help you today to figure out how you can make better decisions, faster decisions, and just have a better process to it all. So Joe, take it away.
It's funny, even in the little opening, I was like, Aaron's like, it's likely messing this up for you. I'm like, no, it is absolutely screwing everything up for you in your life, in your business, with your family, everything. And It's almost everybody that is suffering from this. And, you know, I heard a saying, I don't have statistical evidence to back this up, but the saying goes, more businesses have failed from indecision than poor decision. And again, I don't have evidence for that, but I can tell you anecdotally, I've absolutely found that to be true. That indecision is killing so many people. And when you study like high performance people, one of the most common traits that they have is what they call speed of implementation. When they learn a new topic or concept or opportunity, whatever it might be, the speed with which they make the decision and execute is one of the highest indicators of success. Yet that's the opposite of what most people experience. Something new gets introduced to them and they sit there and analyze it. And look, doctor, I understand you're a doctor, like you're a scientific mind. You want to take in all the data points that you can and you want to sort all those data points and filter them and then make, narrow it down to the best choices, and that process is not serving you well. And I think it's part of the reason why it leads to a lot of burnout as well, is just people are they're stuck on this treadmill. And so I think as we look at things today and what is your process for making decisions, which should include a time frame. And I was talking with the doctor earlier this week, and we were talking about email, and his email just gets hammered with email continuously. I mean, it's just like inbox is just stacked with so many, requests of his time and all the things that come up. And I contrasted that with my wife, who's very efficient. She's also very popular around the world and gets lots of emails. And her job, when she looks at it, is like, if I can just touch it once, I touch it once. So I deal with whatever it is. If I can't deal with it now, it goes into a folder. But she lives by like the zero inbox philosophy. It's like impossible for me to even conceptualize, but for her, she really gets it down, because deal with it, make a decision, move on. And that's what I think you, doctor, really need to focus on, is how can I speed up this process, not live in indecision? Because, by the way, that impacts other people. It impacts other people's businesses and their desire to work with you. Could be patience, whatever it might be. And so I would just encourage you, analyze the way that you make decisions currently, and how can we develop a process to make decisions more efficiently.
Bob, what do you think? Do you run into this a lot with prospective clients or our members?
Yeah. And I think a lot of it just habitually, evolving over a period of time of when we're kids, right? And we're being raised and we're told we can and can't do certain things. And culturally, there's some aspects of different cultures as well, and how they raise and what's going on in their culture from a hierarchy perspective. And then you get into medical school, right? And it's you're put in this position where you gotta study and memorize and study and memorize. And I think a lot of it is just when they finally get to a practice, whether it's their first year or their 10th year or beyond, I think they've built up these habits to where they haven't learned how to actually make decisions other than diagnose patients. Which, when you think about doctors, when they go through, and we think about when we've gone to a doctor, right? After they've done the blood pressure, they've asked you the questions, all this kind of stuff. What they're doing in their mind is ruling things out rather than ruling things in. But on the business side, why don't we do that? They don't do that. Why? I think most of the time is because they don't have the same kind of training and confidence that they have as a medical professional in these other areas. So rather than embracing that and acknowledging that, and I think sometimes there's some scar tissue, right? With Joe, we've got a couple members that we're working with right now that have made poor decisions, seemed like really good decisions at the time, and it's affect them. Both business and personal decisions has affect them. So they start to get a little gun shy, and that's understandable, which is why we there's no hard sale with us. It's, make your decision. At some point, you're going to have to make a decision. And if you just ignore it, then that was a decision as well. Mm-hmm. So we get a lot of that scar tissue, because when people hear what we do and how we do what we do, they're like, yeah, I get that. That makes so much sense. Why isn't everybody doing that? And the reality is, it's hard. It's hard for us to do all this stuff. It's hard to read hundreds and thousands of books over the last 20 years. It's hard to have understanding of how real estate as an asset works, and how retirement plans as an asset work, how your business asset works, and how you work. It's exhausting. It's tiring. Yeah. It's a lot of work. But it's the right thing, because that's what we all want to do as business owners. That's what we want to be able to make decisions. So we've actually set our business up to help our members make a quicker decision by being completely transparent. We're not giving you a tax plan. We're giving you an asset plan that is going to lead to the taxes you may or may not owe, right? There's a difference. They're fraternal twins. You can't have wealth without saving on taxes, and you can't save on taxes without having wealth. That's how the code is written. That's not what all of our members and doctors are hearing when they're looking and talking to people. And that's just the bottom line. And so that affects, I think, the decision-making process. Joe will say, in fact, in recording some of our episodes, I get a bit annoyed because we're not going. Let's go. Let's do this. Enough talking. Let's do this. Action, right? And I get annoyed, don't I? And you both sit there very patiently, and you're very sweet, and like, okay, here goes Bob again. But it's like, the Holy Spirit, your spirit, I know this will work out. We don't need to think about this anymore. Let's just do it. It'll happen, right? Get out of our mind, get into the process, and let's do it, right? And so that's a trained thing, because I just have confidence in us.
Yeah. And I think that's great. And I think so much of what we do, it's a mindset thing too. It's like an awareness thing to bring to the forefront of your mind that, like, doctors know, we all know, we only have so much time here. And every minute you spend spinning, hemming and hawing back and forth, like, you are wasting precious time. And so it's getting in that mindset. And I think for us, we've done a lot of hard work to also make it clear what we do to make the decision as easy as possible. And unfortunately, a lot of things are not like that. It's not as transparent. It's not as straightforward. And I think as individuals, we all make decisions differently. Like, we're all wired differently. Some of us are very gut instinct kind of. I'm a gut instinct person. I'm a fast decision maker. I have, like, my mom, for example, is the slowest decision maker in history, and it drives me crazy, but we are all different. Some people are more with their heart. Some people are more with their head. But I think just having the awareness of, like, what kind of decision maker you are and how can you implement strategies to just get better at it. Mm-hmm. I like what Joe said about giving yourself a deadline or a time frame. Like, okay, this is important to me, so I'm going to give myself 3 days to research or think about it or pray about it or whatever I need to do. I think another good strategy is, I'm reading the book Essentialism right now, and how we want to say yes to so many things, especially as we become more successful and high achievers, or we are people pleasers and we don't want to say no. But again, our time is limited. Our resources are limited. We have to know what to say yes and no to. And so maybe another strategy is rate it on a scale of 1 to 10. Like, is this an 8 plus? Like, heck yes, I want to do this. If it's not an 8 or above, say no. And of course, in our professional life, there are things that we cannot say no to. So how can we get it done faster so that it's off the plate? So I think that's just another strategy. Joe, do you have any more?
Yeah, well, Erin, you know, the values conversation that we have with our members, you know, when someone, I think this is one of the most powerful things we can do for a member is help them articulate what's important to them. Yeah. Roy Disney, Walt Disney's brother, said, when your values are clear, your decisions are easy. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something so few people have clarity around their values. They've never really thought about it. And so then decisions are just kind of this haphazard world where it's just like you just navigate it as you go. And so that's exactly what I was going to recommend, Erin, is I loved your feedback. It's like, where does this decision lie? Like, is this like, how important is this decision? Mm-hmm. And if you're familiar with the concept of the tyranny of the urgent, this is what so many people live in, is it's unimportant but needs to be made now. Mm-hmm. And so we live in this unimportant but really urgent world. Mm-hmm. It's like everything's a fire that we're putting out. So you just kind of waste brain cells just putting out all these fires. And I would encourage people, automate the decision making on as many things as you possibly can. Mm-hmm. Get that out of your world. As a leader, you should not be making those decisions. I'll give you one really simple example. It could be, and I've heard this from, like, it's usually big tech CEOs, but they don't choose what they wear every day. They wear the same thing every day. Every time you see them, they're going to be in the same outfit. It's one less decision that they make. Again, to use my wife as an example, her commute to work, she takes the same route every single time. There's like 17 ways she could get there, and some of them are faster some days. She doesn't want to have to make those decisions in the morning. She just takes the same route without thinking. So automate as many decisions as you can. Yeah. Setting deadlines is huge. And by the way, Erin, what you brought up is really important. Like, so many people are people pleasers and they don't want to say no because they think it's going to offend somebody. No, the indecision is going to offend them. Yeah. Say yes and commit to it, or say no and don't think about it anymore. Guess what? Then they don't have to think about you anymore. We love that. In the sales world, I'm like, I love a no as much as I love a yes. Absolutely. Because our job really is to find the next right person, not the next person. And so I think for you, pay attention to your gut. And I'd encourage everyone to do an exercise. Think about the times you've gone with your gut and the times that you've gone against your gut, and how have those decisions served you? Some people need to recalibrate their gut. When they trust their gut, they've screwed up. Mm-hmm. And so they've lost confidence. Mm-hmm. You've got to recalibrate your gut. Understand, how do I make a decision? Literally, write out the process. So have some period of time where you say, hey, in 3 days, 1 week, 1 day, 3 hours, doesn't matter. You determine the time and put the focus into creating the space to analyze, do your analysis, make a gut level kind of indicator, and then make a choice and be okay with that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think this is something that's really powerful, because this is where the value-based conversation hashes this out, right? This is part of the coaching processes. To your point, Joe, is what are your values? What's important? What are we partnering up and helping you to accomplish and achieve? Taxes are taxes, assets are assets, whatever. That's tangible stuff. But what's the most important thing is you, right? You're the one that's going to create all this stuff. So if you don't know why, your why, Simon Sinek's why, you don't know your values of what you're doing, I think it creates fear. right? And fear is insecurity. You can use one and the same thing. And I think society places so much emphasis on failure and success rather than reframing. And I love what Kobe Bryant, his mentality is, and I've adopted this as well, is they're educational moments. There's no fear in success. Everything is a moment of education. Sure, when things don't go our way, we learn more things. We better, because that was uncomfortable. It's not a failure. There's a little bit more I need to learn from that. But at the same time, success. What did I do to be here? This is awesome. I want to hit repeat, right? Repeat. Where's that button every single time? And I think all of that comes down to the very basics of what you said, Joe, is values. What do you want? And I think it trims a lot of those and kind of separates a lot of those decisions to where it does become more routine. So I'll give an example. When I read books about my faith or about real estate or about a specific topic, and I read 3 to 5 books in a row, that last book I read the quickest. And the reason being is I understand the language that's already in those first 4 books, and I progressively get quicker because my brain doesn't need to re-say those words. It doesn't need to re-understand those concepts. It's already, so for me, when I'm reading a topic, I stick to that topic for the next few books because I'm able to absorb that information quicker and be able to truncate and become better at what I'm doing because I'm allowing my brain to do what it does, what it was designed to do. Versus if we keep zigging, zagging, and doing all these other different directions, your brain has to retrain itself. It loses its flow. Doesn't mean it's dumber. It loses that intake flow. And so I think to your point, Joe, that values and understanding your values is so, so, so important.
Yeah. The last thing that I'll add on this for right now is, and I think I put a post on LinkedIn or something about this, saying no. This was the post I said, saying no to suboptimal members allows us to say yes in radical ways to our ideal clients. And I think that's something like saying no to anything that is suboptimal, it frees you up. Make that no decision quicker in your life. That's probably, it's not the yeses, it's the no's. Get through those quickly. Like, you do not need to sit there. It's like having too many browser windows open. You're slowing the whole thing down, and you've got really important decisions to be made that are getting clogged up by a bunch of BS that you don't really need to think about.
Yeah.
Stop thinking about it. Make the decision, move on.
Yeah.
And let the chips fall as they may. You don't need to worry about disappointing people. If you have clarity on your values and you know where you're going and you've created this strategic plan, your decision is really easy. Does this align with my vision or does it not? If it does not, say no. Move on to the next, let it fall.
Very easy to separate the two. Great. Yeah. That's awesome.
That's great. I loved this conversation. I think it was probably one of our shorter ones, but I think it was also one of our most powerful and hopefully most helpful for doctors and business owners to understand the power of decision making and how you can literally shrink time when you make decisions faster. And Bob, I love the point you made about them being learning experiences. I was going to say that too. The worst thing you can do is not make a decision. But if you make the wrong decision, you learn from it, you do better next time. Mm-hmm. So we gave you some great tips, I think, today for making better decisions, faster decisions. And if you find that you are confused when it comes to your values or your goals or where you're heading, like, we are not only going to help you lower your tax bill, but we're going to help you get clarity on that vision you have for yourself and what's important. And that is just going to help you make better decisions moving forward. So we'd love to help you. You can find us on LinkedIn and at terrafirmaconsultant.com. We'd love to connect with you. And we look forward to talking to you on our next episode. And until then, go be a wealth maverick.